Here is James Cameron.
You never really get an opportunity. You take an opportunity. If you're going to do something, you have to do it all the way, and you have to just put it before all other things.
I don't know about you, but I'm having a really great time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. James Cameron 101. I'm your host, Eddie Green. Today is some Avatar talk here on the podcast. This is, of course, out of all the films in Cameron's canon, these are the films that are the toughest to get people on from the films themselves, just because they are actively in progress. These are not finished films like Terminator, Aliens, whatever. So anytime I can get some Avatar content out there, I love to do it because it's few and far between. So today we are talking with a author of a brand new book that as of right now is not out yet. I think it has about a month and some change as of the time of this recording, but hopefully by the time you're watching or listening to this, it's out, ready to pick up. I'll make sure I have the link to Amazon down below. But of course, it's probably going to be at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, pretty much anywhere you get books. And of course, we are talking about a addition to, I believe, a continuing series of books called Cinema Stories. And it's called Avatar, The Story of Pandora. I'll make sure I have an image pop up here in just a second. But first, we're going to bring in the author of this book, and then we'll get rolling here. So let me bring in Matthew Manning.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, of course. Like I said, anytime I can get some Avatar stuff going on, and granted, I know you haven't worked on the films, but you are now technically associated to Avatar. So it seems like you're really big into the comic books and Batman and whatnot.
Yeah. I've written over 100 books and equally as many comic books, and they kind of range all over pop culture. But yeah, Batman's kind of like my home team, where I've done, I've written more history books about Batman than anybody, and I've just kind of been you can tell my background here on the screen, where it's all I've been a Batman collector since I was a little kid, so. Kind of just yeah. Now it's all in my office, so my wife doesn't have to complain about it anymore.
I love it. Have you written anything on Spider-Man?
I have. I've written a good deal of Spider-Man as well. About maybe 4 or 5 history books, a couple comics, and I've had him pop up in some of my other comics as well. I did a 12-issue run on a comic called Marvel Action Avengers, and I threw Spidey in there for a couple issues, and so. Little bit here and there,
because that's the Cameron connection to because I'm sure that at one point Cameron was going to be making the film that eventually turned into the Sam Raimi film.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest Sam Raimi guy, but so I think I would have really enjoyed to see Cameron's take on it, but not everything can happen, I guess.
Yeah, that's the great, if I were to make my Across the Spider-Verse movie, I would have it would have had something to do with having Cameron directing. You know what I mean? Like there would have been a cut scene to just live action out of nowhere. All of a sudden we're in live action and there's Cameron directing Leonardo DiCaprio as Peter Parker. But I love that you're, this is your passion, and it's just like when I found out about the book. So let me pull up because I asked if you had a hard copy of the book, and you haven't received it yet. So we're gonna pull up an image here. This is the book we're talking about right here. Cinema Stories, Avatar, The Story of Pandora, a picture book adaptation of Avatar and Avatar, The Way of Water. And this is a hardcover, correct?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. And first things first, am I correct in that it's a continuing thing, Cinema Stories?
From my understanding of it, this is the first one I've done in that particular series.
Okay.
I've written it's for Inside Editions as the publisher, and I've written for them for years now. I did I was contacted to do a book called Inside the World of Wolverine, and that was kind of like Wolverine gives advice kind of thing. Right. And then that led to Inside the World of Joker and Wonder Woman, and then I did a book called Anatomy of a Metahuman, which is kind of like in examining the anatomy of all the like DC characters and things like that. And I did a recent one called I did one called The Multiverse of the Dark Knight with all the different Batmans from different realities. And then my favorite for them is a book called Exploring Gotham City, which is going through all the different neighborhoods of Gotham and, talking about the major storylines and characters that are based around there and things. That's a really cool style. But for this particular book, I actually was hired by my editor from a different company. And she started at this new company and said, hey, do you want to, I'd done let's see, I think our last book was a SpongeBob book, which was my first SpongeBob anything. I had to really study SpongeBob because I kind of missed it a bit. My kids watched it some, and so I had to kind of do a deep dive into that. So this was a weird change of pace after that.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask you. Like, it seems like really your forte is, DC, Marvel, like superhero comic books. Like, how does Avatar even remotely fit into that?
Yeah, I think for this particular, I've done some art of movie books as well. So I did like the Art of Captain America and the Art of Thor when those books came out, and I did the Art of the Walking Dead universe recently. That was actually, I was writing that during the pandemic. So there's kind of like, I've done some of these behind the scenes and worked with movie studio kind of books before. And I've also done a good amount of picture books over the years, which is kind of a fun thing. I have 2 kids, they're older now, but it was always kind of fun to write, something that they could read. So I did a series of 5 DC Comics picture books. I've done a Scooby-Doo picture book, and I've done a lot of chapter books. So I think I kind of have a lot of those skill sets kind of overlap for this sort of thing. And I'm pretty comfortable doing things in the sci-fi or fantasy world. So it just kind of fell right in, I think, to an assignment, just like my next assignment. But okay, yeah, it was between I did a SpongeBob and then Avatar and the Ninja Turtle book, right in a row. So it's kind of all over the place for a bit, which is fun.
So when you got the initial pitch, it was, hey, look, we want to release this because something like this hasn't been, to my knowledge, something like this hasn't been really put out there. And is this a as much as you can talk about it, I mean, the films are out there. Yeah. Is this is this a faithful kind of thing, or is there stuff that's skipped over?
Yeah, I had to. It is tough because it's the picture book format. There's not a lot of word. You don't have a lot of words to work with. We always have word counts. I can't remember what the word count was on this particular book, but you don't have a lot of space either. You want to leave it open for some really cool illustrations and things like that. And so, yeah, for this it was tough because we weren't just adapting one movie, we were adapting both of the Avatar movies that are out so far. And so it was kind of like there was some stuff I tried to you have to skip over some of the details, but I think it's about it's faithful that it tells the entire story, and it's accessible to readers of kind of all ages is always my goal. And it's also, but it really there were some things you have to kind of leave on the cutting room floor. You can't do every detail. You kind of have to, or kind of summarize it really fast. But there were some things I actually, what I wasn't going to put in the first draft. Like I actually didn't have the character of the spider character in the first draft, just because I was like, we just don't have room to introduce more characters. And that was one of the only notes from the studio that they asked me to include the spider character. So I feel like there might be some larger role coming up for that particular character in the next movie. If that's of any indication, that might be some sort of tease from the studio. But I have that's just my guess. I have no, forward knowledge. I haven't read the script for the new one or anything like that. But. Gotcha.
So yeah, so when you got that initial pitch, was there any kind of like, I don't know if this fits for me, or was it really just kind of like, hey, this is this is work, like this is work incoming, like of course I'm going to accept this?
Yeah, it's a lot of times, I mean, I don't like to turn down stuff too much. I sometimes scheduling issues happen, but for a picture book I'm like, oh, I can fit this in, this will be fun, and I actually really do like changing it up and going from, like, right now I'm writing a series for John Carpenter's comic company Storm King, and it's a creator-owned thriller / mature readers title. And I'm also writing a kids graphic novel for a different publisher that's going to be like a kids fantasy story that has real science experiments you can do at home kind of thing, called the Spark Experiment. So these 2 projects are completely different. So I really do like mixing it up and like try. Okay, let's let me do something like either a property I haven't worked with, or something a little out of my comfort zone. But this one's kind of, I mean, I remember seeing the first Avatar movie like probably around opening weekend, if I remember right. But and like, man, oh, that'd be fun to go back to that world and kind of like just explore it from this type of perspective. And plus, it was nice because they have a lot of resources online to use. Like when you're, otherwise you just have, like, I wasn't sent any scripts for anything like this since the movies already exist. So I'm just watching the movies over and over. And so like the website was very helpful in finding out like some of the background on some of the like some of the animals that they don't get into, that sort of thing. So we tried to, I mean, I wanted to be as faithful as possible. Everything I do, I want to be. And I've also never worked with the people, the James Cameron's people on this. So it's kind of like, oh, I don't know how much, they're not going to want to take liberties or not, that sort of thing. But I really like to stay in universe, make it feel like, I mean, because it's an official book, so I want it to be as official as possible.
Right.
But yeah, this
how many?
wasn't one that it wasn't really something that I was like, oh, I didn't really even consider turning it down because I'm like, oh, it sounds fun. It's, fun property,
Right.
that sort of thing. And it's not a big in-depth project that it would take months and months. It's something that I can fit in between other assignments and, have a nice little breather from some of the more heavy stuff that I'm working on too. So.
I love it. Yeah. So you saw the first film potentially opening weekend.
Yeah, I can't remember now. I was trying to think of that before this. I was like, was it? I feel like we were excited, so we might have been opening weekend.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, this was the first film was definitely ahead of its release. It was similar to what was happening with Titanic when Cameron was getting ready to release Titanic. All the kind of like the negative press and everything of like, oh boy, this the one that's going to finally, sink them. And turns out it tops, Titanic at the box office, and it's a huge hit. And then of course we get the second film, about what, 12-ish years later, something like that. Did you see that one on opening weekend?
No, I didn't even see that in the theaters. That's the difference when before and after kids, it's there. We don't get often as we want. And also before when the first Avatar came out, I was still living in New York City, and it's kind of like, I remember seeing it with my wife, and we were like, I remember like specifically some, the 3D effects and everything being like, man, this felt like a different experience than any 3D movie I'd ever seen. Like it felt like I just went on some sort of theme park ride, like
right.
That's what like the entire experience was. So, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure what we were doing when the second one came out, but that was one that missed our household for sure. Things got hectic for a bit, Well,
that was still kind of in the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, era. So
yeah,
might
so
have had
that probably was most of it right there. And
right.
then, but yeah, and my kids had actually not seen them. So when I was working on this book, I watched it with them, and now they're interested in seeing the third one. So that one will probably be back in the theater. We'll probably, get out to see it.
Nice. Yeah, and speaking of theme parks, have you been to, because the film's inspired at Walt Disney World in Florida, and now they're expanding over to California, the Pandora, the World of Avatar. Have you been there?
I actually haven't been to that because it's an Animal Kingdom, if I'm...
Yep.
Yeah, so we went to Disney not too long ago, but the kids... Obviously, the kids get to choose where we go, and also I wanted to go really badly to the Star Wars universe. So the Hollywood Studios was definitely on the list, and then the Magic Kingdom was the one that the grandparents wanted to go to. So we didn't get to Animal Kingdom that time, but it will probably be the next time we get out there one of these days.
I'm telling you, it's literally the only ride, because there's two rides there. One of them is sort of like a slow ride, almost kind of reminiscent of It's a Small World, where you're just kind of going through, or Jungle Cruise or something like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the really good ride, which is called Flight of Passage, where you ride you feels and is you're riding on a Banshee, and that's the only ride. Because I used to live in Florida, so I went to Universal all the time, and so I've done theme parks. That's the only ride that's ever. When I got off of it, I had a little tear in my eye because of how real it felt. That's cool. You actually feel like you're flying, and it's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I went to Animal Kingdom was in college, so it was a long time ago. We were in student government, and our government trip got a free trip to Disney, so that was
Nice.
so we got to do all. I remember going to Animal Kingdom during that, but it's been a while.
Yeah, because you're in Florida, right?
No, I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. But you're on
Yeah.
the East Coast. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we've
Yep.
been. I have a aunt and uncle that live in Florida, and so
Okay.
it's kind of a nice excuse to go over there for Disney. We haven't been in a couple of years, but and then we did what a what is the Universal Islands of Adventure one year. So we can,
Yeah.
and Legoland one year. So it's always whatever the kids are the most excited about, kind of thing.
Speaking of Universal, did you ever do the Terminator attraction that was there?
I don't think so. No,
Never
I
did
don't
that one.
remember that one.
Yeah, that was at Universal Studios.
Okay,
Which
because I went to Universal Studios just when I was a kid. I think when it was one of the first when it was first opened. Those kind of early years. So I don't remember that. I remember. Well, I don't remember much from it, but
Yeah,
yeah, we did the Islands of Adventures when we went last time, which was I wanted to see the Marvel part, and my family's all roller coaster people, so we really wanted to do all the roller coasters and stuff, which are kind of on those.
right. Yeah. The T2 3D is what it was called. That came out in '96.
Okay,
So
that would have been before. I mean, after I went as a kid.
Right. Yeah, that was
I
another.
graduated high school in '97, so that kind of given an idea of my age.
That was another great attraction, and unfortunately, it's been taken out of the parks and replaced by other things. But yeah, so right now, currently, Cameron's footprint in the theme park world is Avatar related.
Yeah.
And obviously, in just about a month and some change, we're getting the third film, like you hinted at there. Is there any talks of you doing something similar here with the third film?
I haven't heard anything, so I'm not sure what
Okay.
exactly they're. I know the purpose of this book really was kind of like get it on the, get people reminded again of what the Avatar movies were before they go see it. Especially kids, kind of like, oh yeah, here's a good summary of the first two, and then you're all set. So, but I mean, it also could also depend on how movies do a lot of times. Since they decided to do these prequels to time with the release of the movie, then it'll have to be if it's got staying power and that sort of thing. Which I mean, I assume it will, but you never know. So.
Right. Yeah. I've had a few people on that are, kind of really into the, success of, films at the box office. And, they've also said, they don't think it's going to fail, but you never know. And Cameron, himself has always been that way. I think I remember hearing him say something when The Way of Water was about to come out. He's like, if this is as successful as the first film, then we'll even remotely consider doing 3, 4. So he always has that approach of if this film is successful, which I think is kind of nice. I think he in the back of his mind is like, it's going to be successful. Like I've already proven myself multiple times. It's going to be successful. And, but no, seriously, I hope that you do something similar to this. Cause, I would have loved to have seen the book in your hands so that we could see it, but just from the images,
I haven't seen the artwork from it yet either. So that should be that's always interesting for me. Sometimes I see it during the process, and then sometimes they're just so hung up on, especially with movie tie-in books, like the editors have to wait for approval and then changes and then do changes fast. So it's one of those that I will see it when it comes out.
right.
I mean, my
right.
part's done anyway, so, and once, because, my script has to be approved by my editors and, any of the higher ups there at Insight, and then it has to be approved by all James Cameron people. So once that was all changed, then everybody's happy with it. I'm kind of, wait and see approach. Sometimes I see stuff beforehand, and then sometimes it's, just get it in the mail and hope it's what I was hoping for, kind of thing. But for this, since this is a storybook, a lot of times some people do them differently, but I always do similar to my approach in writing comics. So I'll do descriptions of all the artwork and everything like that. Like it's like when I'm doing comics, I describe what's happening in the panels and that kind of thing. So it's I'm hoping it's similar to what has come up. I did a lot of what was interesting about this one. I did a lot of screen grabs actually not I don't think Disney Plus lets you do screen grabs. So I was doing like timestamps and saying the reference is this particular time in the movie, you know, to make it easier for the artists to figure out exactly, you know, where things were and stuff. But yeah, a lot of times studios do it differently. Sometimes studios will send you a big packet of all their like behind the scenes artwork, and this one's they're kind of like, oh, all the resources are online for everybody to see, sort of thing. So it's that, like, you know, the website was really the kind of the other reference point besides the movies themselves.
Right, right. Of course, Disney Plus doesn't let you take screen grabs. Freaking Disney. But like what, like Netflix and stuff, you can screen grab.
I'm trying to remember if I did on Netflix. I know I've done screen grabs before on other movie related projects. I can't remember which one. It also could have been sometimes they send me actual like video back end material that I can just, you know, shoot off their like production stuff. I know they sent me a lot of videos like that when I was doing. I did all the comics that tied into the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle show. So I remember them. We had to write those scripts before the show ever came out. So they were sending me scripts, and then they were sending me any kind of pieces they had of the animation, so I could kind of get an idea of the characters' voices and how they actually sound, you know, and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it always varies from different publishers to the different IP, whatever you're using. Some have extensive catalogs, and some are just kind of like, you know, whatever you can think of is fine, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Right. So you said, okay, so do you have any insight into, like, do you think in the back of your mind, Cameron himself has actually approved this, or is it his people?
It's probably, I would assume it's his people. I mean, although, you know, things probably crossed his desk. I remember, just from my limited experience with some movie stuff when I was doing like The Art of Thor and The Art of Captain America, I remember actually meeting with Kevin Feige, the guy that runs all of the Marvel Studios kind of thing. And those books were going, he was making notes on those and that kind of thing. So I guess it depends on the level of, you know, how hands-on he wants to be. I know this is kind of like his baby, you know, so there might be, everything might go on his desk, or it could be he could just be like, you know, hires people and trusts them to do it. But
Right.
yeah, it's one of those, sometimes you never know how far up these things go, you know.
Yeah, no, and please do not feel like you have to say he's, you know, your absolute favorite, but where does Cameron rank in terms of like do you have a preferred filmmaker? Like, is there someone that's
a lot of, I mean, I'm a writer, so I gravitate towards like the whole, I guess, you know, kind of the story first and foremost. But storytelling is such a huge part of, you know, directing. So, I mean, I do like Cameron a lot. I especially like his, probably like some of his older films that were, you know, hit me at the right age, you know, things like Aliens and Terminator and things. But yeah, I mean, I don't know who my favorite filmmaker overall would be. There's a lot I like, you know, anybody from Alfred Hitchcock to like, you know, Woody Allen, Tim Burton, you know, all sorts of like kind of a lot of a lot of different places with directors. Trying to think I've been watching recently. Kind of drawing a blank. I don't.
Yeah,
I've been watching a lot of bad movies recently, maybe.
No, I totally get it. It's only because you're in the moment right now.
Yeah.
And then once you hop off here, you're gonna be like, oh my God, why didn't I think of this movie?
Yeah, because we've been. I kind of, again, with my reading and movie watching, everything, I'm kind of all over the board. I like to take in, you know, as much as I can. I remember when I had a little bit more time, I used to watch every single movie that was up for Oscars that way I was seeing films that I wouldn't normally watch, like kind of things that doesn't sound particularly good to me, but, you know, so I started kind of doing that to get an idea. And I remember in college, I watched the AFI's 100 Best Movies that came out, and I like knocked off all the ones that I hadn't seen on that list. And it's kind of, so I really do. I watch a lot of films, although recently I think a lot of people are kind of like this too, is where you get the, you know, television quality is so high for so many shows that, you know, you kind of find yourself watching a lot more shows than movies, especially with, you know, the, you know, busy schedules and things like that, where it's like, oh, we could watch a 2-hour movie, or we could watch one episode of a show and then accidentally watch a couple more, you know, that sort of thing.
Right.
But yeah, like, because right now I'm reading Demon Copperhead, with novel, and I'm also reading stacks and stacks of comics like usual, and I'm watching the TV show Yellow Jackets, and I'm watching Only Murders in the Building with my wife. We have shows that we watch together, which takes longer because our schedules have to line up, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then I'm watching Over the Garden Wall with my kids, so I'm kind of a little bit of everything.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Keep an open mind.
Yeah, I like to see how influences come from weird places too. Like I've started showing my kids some older movies for the first time because they're 12 and 15 now, so they're kind of having a little bit more patience. Like we just watched Hitchcock's Rear Window a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
And I was very excited that they first 20 minutes they're a little bored and then they're like into it, and it's like, yeah, that's a timeless movie, and so things like that. I'm starting to we're going to start getting into some like Coen Brothers movies a little bit with them and stuff like that. Those are another of my favorites too. And but yeah, kind of in the Cameron realm, I did just watch the Alien Earth show, which I enjoyed.
Okay.
But I didn't enjoy it near as much as his other show, because Fargo is probably my favorite show on television when it comes on. And that show, I could watch that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, because you mentioned Rear Window. I was going to say, if they didn't like Rear Window, you could have showed them Disturbia from 07 or whatever it was with Shia LaBeouf.
Oh yeah,
because that's essentially a modern Rear Window
remake. Yeah.
But no, that's good. That's good that you're kind of opening up their palette.
They already have kind of very interesting opinions on things. They kind of are drawn to not so much mainstream, but like the edges of mainstream, which is kind of fun to watch. Like they have some certain like shows that they're like really into, and it's kind of been fun to watch, them develop their own taste.
Are they ready for Titanic, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think that would be anything that would be. I'm not sure it's up their alley, but I mean,
just the runtime alone.
Yeah, yeah. My oldest does start to like get a little bored with things we've watched. Although right now we're watching the other show I'm watching with them, that I'm showing them for the first time, which I really enjoy because their sense of humor aligns with it really well. Is we're watching Community all the way through. Okay. And that's been just a blast to watch them laugh at these, like, they're also watching. There's so many movie parodies in those shows of movies they've never seen, but they're still enjoying them, which is kind of felt like we were just watching the one. And I'm like, okay, this is a parody of My Dinner with Andre. You don't know what that is, but it's a movie where they just talk the whole time, that kind of thing. But yeah, so that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And of course, you've introduced them to the Avatar films, and like you said, they're anticipating the third film.
Yeah, it looks pretty like much. That. They weren't sold, I think, for the first half of the first one, maybe. And I think they started to kind of get in. Now they're like, oh yeah, we'd watch the next one. I don't know if it's like their cup of tea exactly, but they were enough interested to find out where it was going, especially after the second one.
Right. Yeah. No. Look, clearly I'm a Cameron diehard, and I think I've done so many of these podcast episodes with various people and gauging interests of Avatar, and it's like it's sort of shocking how successful the films are when you really, like, all I hear from people is, yeah, I like it, but it doesn't hold a candle to.
Yeah, one thing that has struck me about the Avatar is I see a lot of merchandise. I know McFarlane did a lot of toys for the last couple, or the last one or whatever. But I don't really know, like, I don't know Avatar collectors, and I don't know guys that it's their favorite thing, which maybe it's just my age, I'm 46. So I'm wondering if it's just that, like maybe a younger but I really don't. And I go, I spend a lot of time at comic conventions and, You
never seen Na'vi people roaming around?
I mean, I guess you see them, but I don't know if it's the same degree, of other, which is interesting because that's what I'm fascinated by, because it's made so much money.
Right.
And I don't know, just the diehards, like obviously, like I'm a Batman diehard guy, and it's like I haven't really met those people in real, which maybe I will now that the books come out and people will, when that comes out and people bring it to me at a show or something, because I've not worked in it, because I've seen a lot of other fandoms, but that particular fandom I haven't seen a lot of.
Right. And it's like, It's absolutely shocking that, like, perfect example, like you said, just like the action figures that they've put out there, and the fact that Disney created a whole land at one of their
Yeah,
parks, and they're gonna expand it to more parks. And
and but like Terminator, Aliens, I know diehard people in those, like for sure. Those
yeah,
are like those kind of worlds, Predator worlds, Star Wars, and all that. But yeah, I haven't really met, and I don't remember a lot of, maybe it just wasn't very memorable cosplay, but I don't remember a lot of that, at different shows that I've been to where, it's always whatever the real hot thing is. But I
Mhm.
don't know, maybe I wasn't paying attention. Like I can't even remember when like, as I was saying, why I didn't see the second one in theater. I don't remember what was going on in my life right then. So that might have been, maybe I just have some blank years, that sort of thing.
Although my understanding is that the films are really successful overseas.
Oh,
That's really where the majority of the box office for the films comes from, China and stuff like that. So maybe they're really the like, if you were to go over there to a convention or whatever, maybe they're really kind of
yeah.
eating it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is interesting how things hit differently in different places. I know there was this poet I really liked a lot named Hal Sirowitz, and no one knows him in the States. And I forget if it was Holland or Switzerland or somewhere. He goes over and he's like the Jerry Seinfeld of that country. They love him so much because he writes these like humorous poems. And
Right.
I remember he spoke in our class uh, in a college. I went to the School of Visual Arts in New York City, and no one knew who he was. I thought, oh man, this guy's really good. This is interesting stuff. But then it's crickets out, here, but then there's like a couple, like some country out there where he's like the big star, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Um, but yeah, no. Just to come back to the book for a second, do you know how many pages it is off the
Uh,
top of your head?
I can't remember now. I could check real quick. I have the,
Yeah, yeah.
I think I have the screen. I want to say normally they're around the 40-page mark. Uh,
Okay.
let's let's see. This looks to be 40 pages.
40 pages.
So
Um, oh,
but
go ahead.
no, yeah, no, I was just saying, like, so that probably includes the front and back matter as well. Although
Right.
every once in a while they'll take an illustration and blow it up to a double page spread if they have the room for it.
Okay.
I remember this being one of those things where it's like tight on room because I was kind of like, oh, how do I fit all this story in? So I don't know if there'll be a lot of that. Like, there's, I tried to focus on the most memorable, like visually interesting frames from the film and stuff to say, okay, something around this, not necessarily they have to be drawing what is exactly on the screen, a different angle of the scene or something, but that's what I've sent them for reference.
So really, because I mean, obviously, the you're here and I'm talking to you because of this book. So really, for whoever's watching this and who might be interested in picking this up. This isn't a graphic novel kind of book, but it's also not a little golden book. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah. I think it's one of the, it'll be like a picture book that is just very well rendered. I think
Okay.
it'll be, I think it's very art forward, and I have a, art school background, as I was saying. So it's kind of like, I'm pretty good about conveying what the angles or shots the artist could use to make the most dynamic imagery and that kind of stuff. And I do that in my comics. So it's not like it's not a world I'm not comfortable with doing. So I think it should be a very pretty like art book. Like older audiences will probably treat it as an art book, or younger. It's also something you give to. There's nothing objectionable in it. We had to find a way to make the language kid appropriate as well, and not really. I mean, there's death in the movies, so you have to kind of, say it in a way that's not upsetting. I'm trying to remember an example. There was a line that was talking about how, like, it was like he either had to, he was talking about where he's in the first movie where he's near the waterfall and has to either jump to survive or get mauled by this giant beast that's running at him, that sort of thing. And I remember saying something like he had to either, like he had two choices whether to to jump or to be killed or something. And they're like, can we soften that language? So we have to kind of even that. So it had to be a little bit more kid friendly, but staying true to the movie and not, because characters die and that's an important storyline where people go,
Right.
And that sort of, kind of and it was interesting, especially the second movie. I was like, boy, there's a lot a lot of death, a lot of
Yeah.
poaching,
Well, thank you, because I was just gonna say, like, in the second film, there's those poaching guys, and then his arm gets ripped off, and you see his arm get ripped off, and like it's like a very memorable thing, and it's
Yeah, so things like that you're not going to see in the book. You're
ah,
going to,
damn.
I think we do mention the poaching kind of element, but we don't really get into the mechanics. That's one of the things. There's just not enough room to get into, like, we talk about why they're doing it, that sort of thing, what they're looking for, but then it's kind of, we kind of have to say, oh, and then this so it's like, don't look over there, but
Right. And then you turn the page, and he's just miraculously missing an arm.
yeah, everybody's fine.
And,
No.
and
But
no
yeah,
one knows why.
we don't contradict anything in the movie, so it is kind of like, okay, his son dies, and how do you say that in a way that is, fine for kids, but also, because we want to hold an adult's attention at the same time, especially for these kind of storybooks. A lot of times it's not the kids reading, it's an adult reading to the kids, and one of the tricks is writing something that is an interesting and is interesting language that appeals to everybody. And so that's another thing that's interesting. When you have so few of words and a small word count, your words become very important on the page, everything has a little bit more impact. So it's the rhythm of the sentences and how, I've read so many. I mean, I think I care too much because I like every project to be as good as I can get it for what it's intended for. And I like the idea, like I've read so many children's books that are just short, choppy sentences, one after the other. And it's like, no, there's a rhythm to write, even to writing for kids, especially for writing for kids. There's a rhythm that you need to hold their attention, because, every book is like essentially an advertisement for why you should form a lifelong enjoyment of reading, that sort of thing. So, because the idea, especially what I have been able to write, are things that are specifically geared towards kids throughout my career, whether it's like a little learning to read book about like Shang-Chi, or like I did a chapter book series about these characters called Xander and the Rainbow Barfing Unicorns, which was like, an insane little idea. But it's like everything like that is kind of like, we're giving kids reasons why they should read, like why you like trying to make it so a kid could read it for an enjoyment, because when kids are made to read in class, it's not for enjoyment, it's for a specific goal to learn a specific thing. And I feel like that kills a lot of enthusiasm, and so it's kind of, and I've read recently, I don't know what the demographic is about who's drawn, like what ages are drawn to the Avatar movies, but I know that there's as far as reading goes, there's a real crisis in young boy readers, that they're just not like encouraged to read as much, which is upsetting. But it's apparently something that's happening, especially in the United States. So anything like, maybe this will help a couple kids read, that kind of thing is always one of the other goals I keep in mind. Besides, my first goal is always entertaining me. Like I want to read something. I want to like whatever I've written, So I write for myself, but make sure it's geared towards or not inappropriate for the audience that it's been, whatever I've been hired to do.
Right.
So
right.
It's kind of, yeah, if we can, add that little thing, make it appeal to some kids that wouldn't regular books don't appeal to, then that's just an added bonus.
And who's do you know the illustrator on this?
I actually don't. This is one of those I was kind of kept in the dark. I think it's really just a turnaround time. I think it was one of those books where we were waiting so long from the studios, and I'm at the point where I've written over 100 books, and so it's kind of like it's a nice surprise if I get to have more input along the way, but I don't expect it, just because I know how like the editors that I work with, they're working on multiple projects. There's not always time. And then some writers can be real high maintenance, like, oh, it's not how I envisioned this and this, for every little thing. And they don't want those notes either. So, but yeah, each project is different. But for this particular one, I didn't get a lot of feedback on. And then meanwhile, I'm getting way, way more information on some other books that I've worked on that I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, I don't want to see any more of this. You're doing good, that kind of thing. So there's sometimes a happy medium in there, which is I like to be able to give input and catch any mistakes, that's a good thing. But
Okay.
then if it's just if this is they're just sending my inbox could every day like yet another pass, like, oh, we brighten this slightly, what do you think of it now, that sort of thing, like that's too much. So
Right. And clearly this will be on Amazon. That's where I have it on
oh yeah.
pre-order. But is it going to be physically available in bookstores like Barnes and
Yeah, it should
Noble?
be. I mean, Inside Edition, they get their books. I've seen their books for certain at Barnes and Noble. I don't know. I can't remember if I've seen Inside Editions at like Target and Walmart type. It always depends on the book and that sort of thing. But I'm trying to remember now. I don't. I've done a lot of books for Disney Publishing, and I know they get books into Walmart and Targets. This for sure in Barnes and Noble. Online bookstores, your local bookshop, you can order them. Any place that carries books. I always recommend those mom and pop shops that you have. Here in Asheville, we have one downtown, which is nice. To pre-order from ahead of time. Sometimes smaller bookstores won't carry them physically until you order them. For projects like this that are a little bit more, like, I mean, not in everybody's wheelhouse. So
Right.
it's kind of like, but they can order them. That's you just have to be a little patient sometimes. But
Yeah. I mean, I forget how I even found out about this book. I think I might have just went on Amazon and typed in Avatar just because I, wanted to see what was coming out. There's a crap ton of like books coming out for Fire and Ash, like making of and
oh
like
yeah,
a visual dictionary. And I think it's all from what's the publisher? What the heck's the publisher? DC?
oh, that's
No,
probably DK.
DK.
Yeah, yeah, I've written probably a couple dozen books for DK over the years, but
Yes.
I
Yeah.
didn't get to do any of the Avatar ones. But I was doing I just got finished doing the Ultimate Guide to Superman for them and a DC Encyclopedia that's coming out next year. So it was doing a lot of books back to back, and now right now I've just been doing strict only comic books this year, which is, I mean, after all this was done at least. So it's a nice change of pace. But
Now I do know there are, I haven't read them. I'm not, again, I'm just not really big into Avatar. Like it's, I'm only into it because it's Cameron.
yeah.
But there is actually a comic book. I don't know if it's a series, but I think there have been comic books made of Avatar. Is there
I
any
feel like
discussions for you to join that?
no, I've never talked. I feel like I just learned about them. I can't remember what publisher is doing them. But I remember, seeing something recently, like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But no, I've not been approached by any to do any of those.
Would you even want to?
Yeah, I think it would be, especially, well, this experience was a pretty positive one, so it wasn't like getting a ton of, you work on projects and sometimes you'll get like a billion notes from the studios and you're like, okay, that's a property. Even if I really like it, I'm going to steer clear because that's too much. Like
Right.
you want to have a little bit of freedom, So I haven't, but I feel like it might be different with a original story, but I would probably even like that more just because it's fun to, I really enjoy writing fantasy stories, kind of, and I like writing a lot of sci-fi as well. So I feel like that would fit in to my wheelhouse. I've just not, been in talks with anybody for that.
See, if I were in your shoes and that was proposed to me, I would almost feel like I might do it if I was, creatively inclined, but I would also feel in the back of my mind that this is just going to be viewed as, and no offense to anyone that does this is just going to be viewed as fan fiction.
Yeah, there is a degree of that with some of the stuff that I've worked on as well. Like I kind of feel like that with Star Wars, and I have there was a period where I almost wrote a couple Star Wars comics, and the process was a lot as far as getting notes back, and then ultimately after a couple revisions, my idea wasn't accepted. It's kind of like, yeah, I don't know if that would have been is the best fit, and I love Star Wars, but I'm not sure. Like to me, but I'm also not a person that even watches the Star Wars cartoons, So it's
Right.
like kind of like live action Star Wars is what I consider in my head canon. I was never into although I've been like wanting to read them now, some of the original novels that tie into the universe and stuff. I feel like those interest me, like some of the old ones, But even the new stuff I haven't, and I have several friends that are working on them and love it. And it's just there's not something I've ever like extensively, did a deep dive into reading But I felt like that a couple times. I did my first comic that I ever wrote was for Justice League Adventures, which tied into the Justice League cartoon that was coming out at the time. And I know those were viewed by a lot of people as fan fiction. When I wrote them, I always like only used the elements that were available in the shows and didn't really add characters because I didn't want those characters to be later on added in the show, that sort of thing. And that's how I've done a lot of tie-in books. And so you have people that view them just kind of like as extra that don't really count. And then you have some people that like do extensive chronologies, including all of our, trying to fit everything in. So I think it just kind of depends on the mindset of the person. That's why like, when I work in comics, I really like to mostly focus on comic book characters for the most part that exist. If I'm writing somebody else's characters like Spider-Man or Batman, it's like, it feels better to work in, that's the medium they're from. That's the real version, that sort of thing. And like right now I've been doing some of the, I did some, the Dick Tracy comic strip that is been still in newspapers since 1931. And I got to do the actual comic strip, and that to me is the real version. There's a current comic book, which I like a lot, but it doesn't feel like the real version to me. Like that feels like the fan fiction one, whereas the comic strip is the one that's like the real continuity that's been, going on for almost 100 years now. So yeah, I guess it varies from project to project, even my feelings on it. So
Right. Yeah. And I mean, good point. And, I guess as long as it's in a official collaboration, right? So like those Avatar comic books, those are officially licensed,
Yeah.
So I guess maybe in the back of my mind or in the back of your mind, you would be, okay, this might be borderline fan fiction, but it is still officially, happening. I'm not just doing this on my own and publishing it by myself kind of deal.
Yeah. The only danger in those writing those type of things, like with Star Wars, they wiped out all of that extended universe like material, all those original comics that they came out, that Marvel did years ago, and all the novelizations don't count anymore in favor of the new material, the new sequels. And I feel like that's happened with Alien and Predators over the years, with like one of my favorite comics reading as a kid was Batman versus Predator, which is just great. And I don't even know where that would fit in either universe, like as far as that would, if it's like, if anybody considers that official, even though it's officially licensed, but that sort of thing. So you have the danger of things being wiped out. But I guess even in films today, you do too, like with the amount of remakes, like, oh, that version doesn't count anymore. Now we're on to the brand new version of the Ninja Turtles, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, we're only 6 or 7 days away from Halloween, and look at Halloween, freaking Michael Myers. There's like 10 timelines.
Yeah.
So
and that is interesting. Yeah, because that's what my creator-owned book is for, John Carpenter's company. So it's kind of fun to see like how many times, and I don't know if that's first and foremost in their, the continuity is, where it's just making a fun movie is kind of, what their main goal is. But
yeah, well, I mean, either way, if that ever does come across your desk or you open up your email and there's the invite to do a comic book, I hope you're inclined to do so, because it's again, I haven't even seen this book. I like, for all I know, this book couldn't, but like just looking at it right here is what sold me. I was like, okay, and the fact that it's hardcover. And so I really do hope that that this isn't your only time in the Avatar universe. You know what I mean? I hope that maybe in the future you do the Fire and Ash version of this or something.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. And I think that's one thing I do like the world itself, and I love world building, like personally, like when I do comics and things. So I think it would be also fun to do a more mature, more like just original adventure set in that world too, which is I can see, I could see something like that. There's a lot of story potential since there's just there's very little material out there altogether for the films. So it's kind of, which is interesting, like, with like, it's surprising there's not more comics, but I guess that goes back to this odd phenomenon of Avatar that we can't figure out. Like, and
And something tells me, I mean, this is just me purely speculating, but I do feel like because Cameron is so involved in this, and like you said, this is sort of like his swan song in a way. Maybe he is kind of limiting what is coming out. I know there's the video game Frontiers of Pandora that really kind of
Should
opened
expand
it
things.
up. Yeah, you know what I mean? And but I really do feel like maybe a lot of stuff has come across his desk that he's just went, yeah, no. You know?
Yeah, it could be like, and that's really something that's interesting. There's somebody that's worked in Hollywood that long that he can control the property as well as he can. Most of this stuff gets away from people really quickly.
Right. Considering that it's Disney owned.
Oh yeah. And like even like George Lucas, things started going like, oh, right away there was cartoons like Droids and the Ewoks cartoon and all this kind of stuff, and it's like these aren't like these personal little movies anymore. And I mean, he wasn't even writing them all, so it was kind of the originals. So I think it's one of those things that this does. I guess he's earned enough clout in Hollywood, and earned enough money to like control something, as tight as he has, which is, it could be one of the more, I don't know. I think there's good and bad for it. I think the good part is that that's he really gets his vision of what he wants out there. It doesn't seem like he has to make any real compromises. I mean, who knows? Maybe he does. But when they make that much money, I don't know if even budget compromises are talking. They're talking that much. So there's that. That's nice. But you never know what you're missing for, like what other people could bring to that world as well. So,
right.
Yeah, there's a trade-off, but if it was me, I would rather have complete control like that, like I'm doing my creator-owned series. I don't really, I'm doing a couple right now. And besides the artist, who's my partner, 50-50 in comics, we're, equal partners in these things, the different artists I'm working with. Besides them, I don't really want a lot of input. It's always good if, I like it when editors catch mistakes or like this part of the story is too slow, or catch me on things. They're like, you could punch this up a bit, But then sometimes I've worked with people where they're just putting notes in just so they can tell their boss they put notes in on this,
Right.
Like,
right.
It's like so, but yeah, so I enjoy a lot of that, the collaboration just with people that make art, not with producers and not with people or, studio heads that don't make art, that just make, like, oh, what sells is a funny dog, like add that, that sort of thing. So I think that, I mean, that's just an amazing position for him to be in, and obviously he's earned it over the course of the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's probably, I haven't really analyzed too hardly why Cameron is, my go-to guy, why I have a podcast dedicated to him. But I think that does play a part in the back of my mind is, I'm not a filmmaker, but, I do stuff creatively, and I love that he is able to retain creative control. He has Final Cut. A lot of times you see especially on the Avatar films, he's one of the credited editors, which that's so rare.
Yeah.
To see the director in the edited by section, but to my understanding, even if they're not credited, they might still be in the editing room watching the editor cut it. But the fact that he's even credited really kind of makes me go, okay, he has so much say on this that it's kind of crazy, and for good reason, I think.
Oh yeah. You don't really see, I mean, now in these kind of movies, there's got to be so much visual effects work that's, other people putting in, just tireless amount of times, but you don't see a lot like this kind of level of creative control at a huge studio, often. You see that in like smaller films, and even then there's, all sorts of compromises because of budgets, so.
Right.
So yeah, he's in a rare golden position, I think.
He is. Well, look, before we round it out, because I did want to keep it right around the hour mark, and we are fastly approaching the hour mark. For anyone that is interested, because I just love asking this question, and every new guest on the podcast gets the same question. Put aside your association to Avatar. what is your number one favorite James Cameron film? It can be Avatar, but just make sure it's not because you worked on something Avatar related.
It's probably. I mean, it's probably not the most exciting answer because probably uh, either Aliens or Terminator 2, somewhere around.
All right. Well, if it's one or the other, which one? Which would you
Probably
rather watch?
Aliens are my one of those properties I really enjoy, like the Alien Predator entire universe. I really enjoy. So
Okay.
and I don't know how much nostalgia that is. Although to be honest, my very favorite is still Alien.
Okay.
I do like. I think what's interesting about Aliens is it went from being a horror movie to an action movie, and
Mhm.
they're both really well done. It's a really well done horror movie and a really well done action movie. So it's kind of it's what do you like better? Do you like action or horror? In this particular franchise, I liked how mysterious the alien was in the first one. The first one's a little bit slower than Cameron's, but yeah. So I guess I would probably choose Aliens.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, again, I've done so many of these, so I love to see if there's, I would say personally, it's a kind of like a toss up of Terminator and Aliens. It seems
Yeah.
like that's sort of like really where a lot of his fandom comes from. It's either you're a Terminator fan or you're an Aliens fan. Very rare. Like I think maybe once or twice I've had someone say True Lies.
Oh yeah, that's a good one though too. Like the one I haven't seen in forever, but I remember really liking it was Abyss,
The
and
Abyss. Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to revisit that. That's one that I saw something recently about an alternate ending or something, and I'm kind of like, man, I don't remember the regular ending. So I think that's one I'm just going to revisit and see how it holds up to me, that sort of thing. But
It's just there's a theatrical edition, and then there's many people prefer the special edition
okay,
that he put out because it came out in theaters about, I don't know, a year or two ago. He re-released it in 4K,
oh,
and it was the special edition, which has I think 16 minutes of added stuff, and it really is like worthy stuff.
hmm. So
Um,
yeah, I don't even
so,
know. So maybe that's the version I should watch because I
yes,
think I'm almost positive I've only seen the original.
yes,
So yeah,
yeah.
that could be interesting.
Um, and but no one has said Piranha 2.
Yeah, I think that's the only one of his I haven't seen. So that maybe I'll do a double feature.
Right, right. And honestly, I mean, I don't know. Have you seen the first one from Joe Dante,
No, no, but
Piranha?
I do,
Um,
I do like Gremlins a lot. So.
yeah, I mean, check it out. But personally, and I'm even putting my fandom for Cameron aside, I think Piranha 2 is better just because it takes the absurdity of killer piranhas and it takes it to a whole other level. Now they're flying around and God, it's crazy. It's like it's absolutely bonkers. But
I'll have to check it out.
yeah, yeah. But no, look, dude, thank you so much, Matthew, for coming on here and just really celebrating this book. And again, I just want to bring up the photo here since we don't have a hard copy in front of us. But please, everybody, if you are an Avatar fan, if you're a Cameron fan, pick this book up. It'll look great on your shelves. And it's just, looking at this, it's a shame that your name's not on the front. I just realized your name's not on the front.
Yeah, and what's funny too is a lot of these books, the tie-in books, or things like that. I don't even have a say in the title. I think it was just when I was working on it, we are just calling it Avatar, a picture book. At the time,
A picture book.
it was one of those where it's like, yeah, the marketing team decides that sort of thing. So it's a bummer when I don't have the. I mean, I'm hoping I'll make the title page. Sometimes it's in the contract, sometimes it's not. And I normally there's not often that I really am like fighting for it to be on the. It just depends. It's always nice when it is, but it also could be on the spine. You never know how they do it. So.
Also, do you know, is there going to be any kind of forward or anything for this?
I wasn't told if there was.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't told about it. But again, this is one of the ones that was I had less back and forth with it than other ones, and also because I was working on those two other books, I really couldn't have done too much more back and forth. So it's probably worked out for the best. My schedule was overloaded at the time, but it was like picture books you can always make time for them. They don't take too long. But
Right. Well, either way, congratulations on it. And again, I hope you are associated to the inevitable cinema stories, Avatar, Fire and Ash picture book, because it would just be weird. It would just be weird if you're not the author of that one. It would just be weird, you know?
Yep, I agree.
It would just be weird. It's like when there's the first movie and then, but I guess aliens, Ridley Scott
Yeah.
didn't go over to Aliens. So, but yeah, either way, appreciate you coming on here and talking some Avatar. Is there any I'm going to give you the floor here, talk about what you got coming up besides this book here. If there's anything else you want to promote, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, just the other big things that I'm working on right now is that series called Tales of Science Fiction Pause. John Carpenter's Tales of Science Fiction Pause, which is a new series that's going to come out in April. The first collection will come out, and at the same time, that's when if you're listening and interested in the kids type of thing, my book, The Spark Experiment, also comes out in April. And then I have you can visit my website. It's called Worthwhile Nonsense. It's on Substack is my newsletter. So that's where I talk about all my upcoming books. I do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So I'll probably be talking about, I've done behind the scenes on several of the books before. So, and I'll be talking about all different kinds of process, from anything from picture books to comics and that sort of thing. So
beautiful. Worthwhile Nonsense.
Yeah.
what a great title.
It's kind of what I've based my life on,
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, everybody, seriously, go check him out. Also, sorry, did you mention social media? Do you have social media?
Yeah, I'm trying to get on there less, which is why I'm kind of trying to build up the web, or the newsletter is very recent. I've only done like maybe 5 or 6 of them. So I'm really trying to spend less time on social media and more time working. So it's, but I am under my name, Matthew K. Manning. I have a website, just MatthewKManning.com. And then I'm on, at least for now, Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, those sort of things. So
got it. All right, because I just want to make sure. Just send me those afterwards, like the link or whatever it is. That way, I have it all in the show notes for anyone who's curious to see what you're up to. And everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening, however you're consuming this. It really does mean a lot. And please go support Avatar, the story of Pandora. The book, which, like I said, as of right now is not out, but probably by the time you're seeing this, it is ready to be added to your shelf. So just stick around, Matthew. We'll do a formal goodbye here, but I like to round it out and end every episode by telling you, go watch a Cameron film.